Absolver's a really interesting game. I've been playing it for like the last week. I got my hands on it early, and for those of you who haven't heard of it, and some of you really haven't, it's a melee-focused RPG-style game that is basically, you're going to hear this a lot, and people don't like when you do this, but it's got a lot of similarities to Dark Souls, but in a lot of ways, it's very different. Basically, the way it's set up is that you are a dude, and you're dropped into this weird land, and it's pretty much up to you to fight your way to the top to go from Prospect to Absolver, like the awesomest fighting dude. And you're plopped in this world, and basically all you really do is fight. And that would be kind of lame if it wasn't for all the systems around it. The whole game is designed around fighting, leveling up your character, and not only leveling up your character and getting loot and stuff, but also building out your combat deck and essentially learning and becoming a better fighter. The way this works is kind of complicated, and it takes a little while to explain, but basically you have 4 fighting stances. Each fighting stance has a different sequence of moves with heavy attacks and light attacks. Each one of those stances, you unlock more slots to slot in more moves. You know, you could do 2-hit combos and eventually 3-hit combos. And building the combat deck allows you to swap in different moves and different punches and kicks here and there in sequence when you want, and you can also set it up to basically make it one giant chain. Using certain attacks will essentially trigger you to change stances and essentially keep your combo flow going. It sounds really complicated, and when you first look at it, it's really overwhelming, but once you figure it out and you get the feel for it and you do it in motion and you bust out a nasty combo, then switch to a different stance and do a completely different combo, and then automatically switch to another stance and finish a dude off with a big roundhouse kick. It really feels like a goddamn beautiful dance. Like when you are doing this stuff and when Absolver is firing on all cylinders, that is the game at its best. The fighting is absolutely where the game excels, and I like it. Now, there's a lot to do with it. It can be really challenging because you have the heavy and light attacks, you have building the combat deck, you have all this combo stuff, then you have the ability to dodge, and also you have the ability to either counter, parry, or dodge, or absorb attacks, depending on which of the 3 fighting styles you choose at the outset. And with all that, you have to manage a stamina meter that it feels depressing because it goes down so quick sometimes, but that's really the game in a nutshell. The combat is very challenging, it's very deliberate, it's very focused. You know, it's sometimes it can be really fast-paced and the ass beating goes quickly, but other times it can be really slow and deliberate, and you're fighting one dude on a bridge and you're careful about your footing, and every single punch and parry matters. That is the aspect of Absolver that I really, really love. The fighting, the brawling is so solid and well thought out, and the whole character progression thing really kind of incentivizes you to keep playing because the whole name of the game is just trying to build a better character. Now, it does help because it does get really challenging sometimes, especially when you fight a couple of characters on screen at once. It shows the lock-on system isn't that great, and the camera gets stuck sometimes. I do kind of hate fighting like 4 people at once. It feels like the game isn't designed to do so, but when you're fighting just like 1 or 2, that's where the game is at its best. But regardless, you're going to need help because you're going to fight a lot of dudes sometimes, and coming across other players online is really cool. It's very Dark Souls style where players naturally and organically will show up in your game, and it's up to both of you to either team up or just start killing each other. Now, it totally sucks if you're in the middle of a fight and a real player comes in and just finishes you off and decimates you, but on the other hand, it's really cool when you got a good crew going and you start walking around and fucking everyone's shit up. The game does put some light emotes in place to be able to communicate with people, like if you want to fight or request to stop fighting and wave and stuff like that, and I think that's at its best because sometimes I just don't want to talk to people, but I do want to punch stuff with people. That's where the gameplay works really well, but I think the other aspects, the main loop of the game is where it's going to lose some people. Once I put out the before you buy, I saw a lot of feedback from other people, and I do get a lot of the complaints out there. Fighting is all you do in the game. It seems really repetitive. The whole story or lack thereof in the game and the objective to accomplish just seems kind of like, whatever, there's not much to it. You're plopped into the world and you gotta fight your way literally to the top of the tower and beat the big bad and become the Absolver. That's really it. The game drops you in with a vague map that it only shows you certain things in certain areas, and it's really up to you. You kind of just get lost, but what I liked about it is I like how memorable all of the areas are and how the level design is. So for me, I didn't feel frustrated when I didn't see a map. I saw not having a map and really figured out the game and said, all right, cool, can't wait to get lost, can't wait to learn these areas and the ins and outs of them. There's also a little 1v1 mode you could do. You can hop into and just matchmake and fight a random dude, and if you want to get more out of the combat, that is a good way to do it because you also still earn progression for your character in the main world, which helps. But really, of course, once you finish the game, you realize it is more of an online game. Since it is so short, it does emphasize going back and playing more and strengthening your character more and really just kind of enjoying the combat system that is so good, whether it's through 1v1 multiplayer or the more stuff coming, or from just going through the environment and just getting better. You can go back and now you're an Absolver and you can create a school, which essentially allows you to kind of set up your moves and teach others your ways, and of course you can then travel throughout the maps and just beat ass as one of the cooler dudes. And I think that's divisive. I think some people are going to love that and they're going to love some of the mechanics enough to keep going and playing the game, but others just aren't. But like I say, it's cut and dry, it's very simple, and some people aren't going to like that. Some people are going to want more. Some people are going to want side quests. Some people are going to want an actual objective. Some people are going to want dialogue. Here you just have this very sad, barren, depressing world with not a lot of sound or music or anything. But thankfully, I do think the game looks really damn good. I played it on PC. The levels, like I said, do look vast and really gorgeous. It's all fairly seamless. The art style is very minimalist, but cool. It's unique, and I really like that all the players are faceless. It makes for kind of an interesting dynamic, and it's cool character design. And it's really challenging. Sometimes I really like a good hard game, and the early hours of this game are frustrating because there's a learning curve. It throws you right in. It gives you a very, very brief tutorial, but then that's about it. For a while, you actually think the main game is the tutorial, the way it steps you in. I think that's a little weird. And then once people realize, oh, this is it, this is the game, that's where disappointment can set in. But for me, I just love the main hook so much. I love the fighting, I love the exploration and learning the levels and just seeing the game and playing the game that I'm down with it. I am so down with it. Apparently the developers are going to add more like a 3v3 mode and some spectating and stuff like that, and that's good. I hope they also provide updates because the game is a little buggy and glitchy here and there. Just a heads up for you guys. So in some ways it can seem kind of short, but it's not a full-priced game, and I do think the fighting system and the act of developing your own fighting system and developing your character is deep enough to warrant checking it out. I do really like this game. If you don't care about being spoon-fed a whole story and having side quests to do and having a bunch of busy work and just really focus on the core fighting element of a game, that's why I think you should check out Absolver. It's very different. It tries different things. Even if some people aren't really feeling some of the risks it took, at least it tried. It's an absolutely unique game. I can tell you that. It's unlike a lot of other games you've probably played recently. But I do think for me throwing around the Dark Souls word for some of you guys, that should mean good things. It's challenging, it's a little brutal, and it's focused on the combat and just how deliberate and how every move counts. I think it's all fun as hell. It's not perfect. It definitely has flaws. I pointed them out. If you want to see more flaws, I point out more in depth. Go check out them before you buy, but I do really like this game. So if you have been playing Absolver, if you have been following it, I do want to hear what you guys are thinking, how you feeling on it, because I've heard a lot of mixed things from here. I've even talked to some reviewer friends of mine. Some of them really like it, some of them find it interesting, and a couple of dudes I know really didn't like it at all. Let me know what you think, because this is a conversation. Let's talk down in the comments, and if you got anything else for me, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino. You know the deal. But clicking the like button does help me out. Thanks for listening to me ramble about video games over here. You know the deal. I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe because video games.